Hi, welcome to Hamilton and Hazen, Behind the Mic. Join author M.L. Hamilton and me, I'm narrator Kelley Hazen, as we discuss our latest audiobook. Born from our 7 years of collaboration and more than 60 audiobooks we've produced together, listen to the ins, the outs, the ups, and the downs, the inside track you love to follow, Behind the Mic.
Welcome to Behind the Mic, number 18. Hi, Kelley.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about Trading Time, which is the third book in our Christmas Mystery series. And so I'll kind of let you start us off.
This is kind of fun because what is today? Today it's almost the end of May,
Yes.
right? Today is May 30th, I think. And we released, okay, so my so my first question to you, I have all these questions. Oh my God. Uh so the Christmas Mystery Series, I mean, and we've talked about this often in Behind the Mics, is that you'll get this idea and you'll come to me and you'll say, do you think we can do this? And my answer to you is always yes. But this was one of those things where you just said, I think I want to write a Christmas mystery. And so I'm not sure if we've ever talked about it. And if we have, it was 2 or 3 Christmases ago. So um what prompted you to want to write a Christmas mystery series?
So I saw it was Christmas, like you said, 3 years ago. And I saw all these people coming out with these Christmas themed stories. And I started looking into it, and the one that I came across was Agatha Christie, and it was her Christmas mystery. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna read it and just kind of get a feel for how she handles this whole idea of a mystery around a holiday kind of situation. And so that was where I kind of got the idea, is really Agatha Christie and her Christmas mystery gave me this idea. After I'd seen all these other people doing these Christmas mysteries, it gave me an idea to maybe have one of my own, and it worked into a series. The plan is there's quite a few. I think there's 6 or 7 of these that I have planned, but eventually is to work. I to eventually work Everly and Isaac into their own series, because I think that they're an interesting, they became very interesting to me as sort of the crime fighters, a different type of crime fighter than our other ones, and Peyton and Marco, or than Zion and Tate. So that's kind of where that came out of, was this idea that, yeah, maybe I should do a Christmas mystery myself. It's those crazy, like you brought up, those hairs that get in my head that I just have got to go pursue. And that was the reason.
We record, that we here at Storyteller record a Christmas story every year. And it's been interesting um, each year trying to find a story to record because, sometimes initially there's always, oh, yeah, there's your favorites. And we've been doing it for 10 years now, I think. And uh, and it is kind of amazing. Everybody has a Christmas story.
Yeah.
I read The Midnight Library, which is a book by a guy named Matt Haig, and he's got a Christmas story. I mean, even these contemporary authors. So it makes a lot of sense that you decided to do one and have one for yourself. You also had an interesting sort of caveat to your series because you are such a murder mystery writer, but you decided to approach it's a different kind of mystery for your Christmas stories. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, well, I didn't want anything that was really bloody or gory or a lot of death. And so I wanted them to be more human interest, more emotional, and people searching for things. That's so, the first one, Seeking Solace, is about a mother whose baby is stolen from the hospital, and her finding her before she dies of cancer. And then Finding Freedom was a young woman who was abducted when she was, a teenager, and her sister searching for her. And then it takes us to Trading Time, which is very different. It's two young boys who were also abducted by their father and taken to a remote cult, and live their lives out. These are all based on real mysteries, but the ones,
Rip headlines.
yes, the ones I search for in this series are ones that don't have the blood and the gore and the violence. Now, Training Time is a little different because there are some really tense, um, dangerous moments in it, but there's not, heads in boxes as Peyton might have, or,
In the head, in a
yeah.
box.
So that's why it's different in that regard.
Um, it's and also there's the possibility of a gift y-
Yes.
in the solution, if the solution is possible, the possibility of a gift. So missing
That
person.
Christmas miracle idea. Yeah, that Everly is so
Yeah.
focused on always is giving somebody their Christmas miracle. Yeah.
Um, speaking well, and since we're talking about trading time specifically, um, yeah, talk about some tense moments. There's a sequence that in near the end of the book that I would argue is as intense as any of the situations that our favorite ML Hamilton characters have been in.
Yeah.
Um, and without giving too much away, you've already mentioned that this is about two young boys who are abducted and taken to a cult. And there's some very interesting, this sort of the first two books, Seeking Solace and Finding Freedom, which tends to be the way your series go, if you don't mind me saying it. Initially, the stories, I don't want to say cut and dried, and I don't want to say formula because they're not either of those things, but they're very the sort of the through line is very clear.
Linear.
And yeah, yeah. And the distance between A and Z, the distance between the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight
Yeah.
line, kind of. But this one with Trading Time, there's some very interesting philosophical.
Yeah.
Uh, Everly, who is a Sacramento missing persons detective,
Yeah.
Isaac Stern, who is a private investigator, take a stand that is, or you get the impression that their point of view is they're not towing the line of the Sacramento Police Department when they have to deal with the FBI.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to me. How did it feel writing that, and maybe say more about that sort of as a plot line, and then how that felt to write?
So what becomes really obvious whenever you do research, with the different, which, and we know this, right? We know this from the news. There's an uneasy alliance between the different legal or police forces. And you have your on the boots on the ground police force or your sheriff's department that are in those neighborhoods. They work in those neighborhoods, they live in those neighborhoods, and they know sort of what's happening there. And then the federal part of it that comes in with more resources and more training, often comes in, and they, in some of these cases, they have to take over, or they're supposed to work in concert with the local police force, but there's definitely a hierarchy. And I think we've seen in other instances like this, Everly brings up Ruby Ridge, Everly brings up Waco, a lot in this, that sometimes the goal of the federal forces are not the same as the goal of the local forces. And it's how much information do you share between them? They're supposed to be working together and sharing everything together, but of course, human nature kicks in, and there's some territorial disputes. And so it gets very tense. because the FBI agent who wants to resolve this, and he doesn't want a bloodbath, he's very clear about not wanting a bloodbath. Um, he keeps getting met with resistance from Everly and Isaac, who feel that there has to be a different approach to this than the FBI's approach. And they want to do more investigation before they commit to a course of action. And I'm being vague deliberately, but
Well, it's a mystery. It's also, I think there's also that feeling of being used, you know,
yes,
if when you're not told everything, and
yes.
when someone's objective is being hidden, how how would anyone respond to that? You know,
There's
how,
a very tense exchange, Everly tends to be kind of even keeled, and there's a very tense exchange between her and the FBI agent that's assigned to the case of her accusing him of withholding information from them. And he is in fact withholding information from them. Um, that they're aware there's something there. They're not aware of the gravity of what he is holding back.
and that conversation is actually a soundbite at Storyteller Productions on SoundCloud. If our fans are interested in hearing that, it is one of the things I loved about recording it is that you always get this feeling, or I felt about Isaac Stern, that he's kind of this happy-go-lucky, his beanies, matches, sweaters, he dresses, being monochromatic seems to be very important to him. And you see a different side of Isaac
Yeah.
in this mystery, and I really appreciated that. There's also some the banter between Isaac and Everly there's a lot of Christmas banter. Isaac Stern is Jewish, or was raised Jewish, although is not necessarily practicing. And so there's some interesting, I don't want to say obvious, but it's a very fresh way of looking at choosing to celebrate all of the holidays that come at that time of year. And that's our right as Americans.
Yeah. Well, and he's interesting because he has such a he walked away from the police force. He had a promising career and he walked away from it because of the way that they handled a specific case. And he always is sort of this renegade in a way, but in this case, he kind of becomes more of the by the book cop, where Everly tends has kind of gone off and in her own, and he gets angry with her at one
Mhm.
point because she has decided to go off on this tangent that usually he would have done. Yeah,
And perhaps in terms of the rules, it would be more appropriate for him to go off the rails. I mean,
right.
but yeah, no, it's the evolution of their relationship, and of those two characters is very interesting to watch. It's the whole book is becoming more and more familiar. I mean, we have fans that clamor for the Zion Sawyer Cozy Mysteries. They love that series. They've fallen in love with that series, and I think we're on the verge of seeing the same thing with the Everly Beckett Isaac Stern relationship
So
and
this
these.
is a question I have for you because I remember at one point, and I don't even know if you remember saying this to me, but at one point, I don't even remember which series. I don't know whether it was Zion or it was Avery, but you said it's about the third book where you feel like you kind of hit the sweet spot, like these characters, they're like butter, like putting on an old, robe or something. So what do you think is the reason for that? Why does it seem to take three books for it to kind of from the writing perspective and also from the narrative perspective kind of hit a stride, kind of hit a like you said, sweet spot?
I would, all right. So I was thinking about this. Why are you so good? Why are your books so popular? And I think it's because of the relatability of your characters. uh, both from a really it's easy to relate to them, to connect with them, and to, understand their motivation, and then you write great situations that we would all like to imagine ourselves in, either from a challenging perspective or a it's like, I mean, I always go back to Zion, the unknown mystery inheritance,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
changed their life. You
yeah,
know, how many of us in conversation at some point have said, well, if I could just find out I have a mystery uncle somewhere who passes away and leaves me $1 million or whatever.
yeah,
So that being said, um, there, I don't want to, and again, I use that word formula. I don't want to, you don't write in formula. You write it's in comfort almost. It's just, and because it's not formula, because all of these characters and all of these stories do fall in a certain path, that is under the ML Hamilton umbrella, it takes a little time to navigate those narrow turns to kind of get, that's where that fits. That's where that slides into home. And around the third book, and then also for that world to drop in, so that in my mind and in my heart and in my intuition, it just, it solidifies. It's like slowly focusing down until it just hits resolution.
yeah,
And then it's like the guy, I can't think of his name, but the dispatcher, who's such a piece of work, he's such a problem.
yeah,
And the her I I can't believe I can't remember the characters' names, but her best friend, who's also a dispatcher, and her little boy, and just all of those people, it just starts to drop. It drops, and it drops in, and that's about usually where it happens.
okay,
And maybe it is, but the third book where Trading Time was the third one, where the story starts to deepen a little bit. It starts to get off sort of, this is what I'm writing. Okay, now the world comes alive. So maybe it's you and I dropping in at the same time, I think.
yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So my final question to you is, and only because it was asked of me, Trading Time, Christmas Mystery, right? And we released it in April this year, Christmas in April, and it's been an interesting time for you. And I wonder if you wanted to share, why did we have Christmas in April?
Yeah, so most the people that are on our newsletter know, but my father got sick last year around Mother's Day, and he had esophageal cancer, and we went through a 8 month um just marathon of him getting treatment and then getting sick, in and out of the hospital, and really from about Thanksgiving on he spent more time in the hospital than he did at home. And I was back and forth to be with him because we tried very much to make sure he wasn't alone, except for when we had to. So I was very much back and forth. And so it just kind of knocked me off kilter. And my father did die February 16th, which was a massive loss for our family. He was such a instrumental part, not only for us as the patriarch of our family, but for the fact that he was such an integral part of my writing. And we've talked often about, he was always the first person to read everything. And um the first person to critique it and give me feedback. And Velvet Sapphire, which we did prior to Trading Time, was the last book that he actually read and participated in. And so it hit, and I reached a point where I was still trying to force my way through, because I felt this deep commitment. And at some point, I think it was you, I'm almost certain it was you who said, stop trying to kill yourself and
Mhm.
accept what's happening right now, be in the moment, and then pick it up when you can. And that's exactly what we did. And you were a huge support for me then because I think I needed that person to say, at this point right now, life is happening, and you need to be present in that moment. And so we did come out in April. We figured it would be Christmas in April, and we accepted that. And it's a humbling experience to realize that, as much as we think we are in control of our destiny, we think we are in control of what we do, sometimes life happens and you need to be present in the moment. And I thank you for bringing some reality and clarity to me in the midst of everything that was happening at that time.
Well, if I said something that was helpful, I'm glad.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good. Your dad's name was Vern, wasn't it?
yes. Yeah.
I love that. And we had a conversation recently about, was it about piles and pilings?
Yes, yes. So, which we're gonna be doing the behind the mic on Tuesday for the seventh book in the World of Samar series. And my dad, my dad would get these things in his head, God love him, that something was the way it was, and it was damn the torpedoes going to be that way. And he and I would argue vehemently about it, and he always won. And I was thinking too, some of the things like in the fifth book of that series, one of the characters, Shandar, has to come up with a name on the spot, and he comes up with the name Bud. And that was an inside joke between my dad and I because he hated all the crazy names that were in the fantasy series. He always insisted that everybody should be named Bud. And so that was sort of a nod to him at one point of having Shandar be the one to pick the name Bud. Because that was always one of those things that he was always like, why can't they be Bob and Bud? They should just be Bob. Everybody should just be Bob and Bud. And so those there throughout
Yeah,
my writing, there's these little tributes to my dad and some of his just crazy things that he would get in his head. God love him. And he was not a stubborn man. He was the most even-keeled man you know. But every once in a while he'd get something and he would not like a bone. And the
I was
pilings thing was one of those.
I was just thinking about we finished Watchers of Eldon, and I started reading The Followers of Eldon, the next book, which is, I can't wait to record it. But all of a sudden we're in this new land. We're focused in Dorland, which is another part of Samar, and there's Amarok and these new characters. And I thought I was like reading along at 4 in the morning or whatever it is that I do most of my reading, and I was reading and I was going, how does she come up with these? So we'll talk more about that on
Yes,
Tuesday.
yes.
This is fun.
Well, as always, Kelly, it is a delight. And so maybe should we preview our next coming books now?
Most assuredly.
All right. So as you mentioned, and we can talk more about that on Tuesday, but we're going to be doing the followers. Yes.
The Watchers of Eldon
We
is
just did
the
the Watchers of Eldon. What is the next book? The Followers.
next. Followers of Eldon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Followers of Eldon. So that will be coming up hopefully this summer. Are we
Mhm.
thinking?
Oh, it's really interesting. I had this wonderful woman join the review team, and she joined the review team. She came from, I believe she came to us from your newsletter, and she contacted me and she was just like, I am a massive fan of World of Samar, and I can't wait for the next book. And then Watchers of Eldon released recently, and I sent to the review team, would you like to listen and review Watchers of Eldon? And she emailed like instantly. I hit send and her response came back. She was like, I've been waiting forever for this book. And
That's
so
the one that emailed me too.
yeah. And so I am, and I'm putting it on the air now. I'm engraving it in stone. It is my goal, my personal goal, to finish recording the entire World of Samara series in the next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's 4 more books.
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
So I think there's no reason we can't do it. And I will say, I will put it on the air. I think this is the series we're gonna be able to retire on. This series is so amazing. It's so good. I read everything. I read everybody. I have a lot of, because of the recording I do, I read a lot of independent authors. This series is as good as anything I've ever read. And I read everything. John Grisham, John Irving, Ann Patchett, Lauren Groff. I mean, okay. So I'm putting it out there.
So then the other one I am 10 chapters into is our Zion Sawyer series that I know many people are waiting for the next one. Chai Tea is coming out, and that will be
That'll be this spring.
this well, at least by the summer. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have that one out. So that one,
It is almost June, isn't it? Yeah.
spring
Yeah.
is done.
Yeah.
So
Why?
we're rounding the corner on Chai Tea, and we'll have that one out. That will be our penultimate Zion Sawyer. So
You're
we're
gonna have some sad fans. Sad fans that Zion Sawyer is coming to an end.
yeah. All right.
Oh, and then we have our fall books that we have earmarked.
And
Another
hopefully a Christmas mystery in time for Christmas.
We'll do our best.
Yes. All right. So this has been Behind the Mic number 18. And we will see you on Tuesday for Behind the Mic number 19 with the Watchers of Eldon.
Bye-bye.
Soon.
Thank you for joining us for Hamilton and Hazen Behind the Mic. Visit authormlhamilton.net and kelleyhazennarrates.com to join our newsletters for more insider news and views. Today's episode is sponsored by Phoenix Publication Services, PPS, Digital Shepherds. Let us ignite your writing goals.